Thinking about moving to the state of Washington? Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about 5 different areas in the state of Washington that you need to consider before you make your move. I'm Cassandra Marks, also known as Realtor Cass. I am so glad that you are here today, and we are going to talk about the state of Washington and honestly 5 different places that you might be thinking about moving to. We're going to talk about everything climate, employment, lifestyle, and even housing. So let's get started. Well, let's start with the biggie, Seattle. And Seattle's population is roughly around 734,000, and that's just Seattle proper, and that was in 2021. But as a whole, the Seattle metro area has about 4 million people in it. And that's absolutely insane. And when you think about the growth that they've had, it's been about 20% between 2010 and 2020. It makes it the 15th largest metropolitan area in the country. Climate-wise, Seattle has cool, wet winters and relatively warm and dry summers. And I gotta tell you, out of the entire year, it has about 201 days of clouds and 93 of those are partly cloudy. That's a lot of gray, and that's what you're getting when you move to the Seattle area. And for the lifestyle, many people move to Seattle for that city hustle and bustle. And if you're not living in the city, then I don't know what you're doing out there. There's plenty of different activities, whether they're right in town or just a short drive away, from kayaking to biking to cycling to rock climbing to boating to camping, whatever outdoor activity you want to do, it is right there within a few minutes of Seattle. But if you're not into that kind of thing, and maybe you're into the food industry, well, there's plenty of food and cuisine from all over the world. There is one thing that I absolutely love about Seattle, and they are known as the birthplace of grunge music. I'm pretty sure many of you have heard of Kurt Cobain and Nirvana. Well, they kind of started the whole kick there in Seattle. And if you're not into food or music, maybe you're into sports. Well, Seattle has 7, count them, 7 professional sports teams. Everything from baseball to hockey to football, to soccer, football, rugby, you name it, they've got it. You can find it locally in Seattle. Seattle has a wide range of employment opportunities, but mostly it is kind of this older industrial mixed with this technology companies. So some of the companies you obviously know and recognize: Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing, Zillow's there, Nordstrom's, of course, the birthplace of Starbucks, and even Costco is located in the Seattle area. When you're living in Seattle, you can find a whole range of housing, from single family homes to townhomes to condos. But obviously, if you're living in Seattle, chances are you're probably living that city life. And the median home price in April of 2023 was $800,000. Whew, that's a lot. It is the 25th most expensive city in the nation. And honestly, it was down 2.4% sales price wise that month. So people, are kind of seeing a little change in the market there. And the second city that we're going to talk about today is Spokane, Washington. Well, Spokane is 280 miles east of Seattle. It is also 18 miles to the Idaho border and 93 miles up to Canada. So it is over there on the east side. The population of Spokane in 2021 was about 230,000. But if you want to look at the Spokane whole metropolitan area, which does include Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, their population in 2021 was about 573,000 people. The climate in Spokane is very different than what you're gonna find in wet, gray Seattle. In Spokane, it typically, since it's at elevation and it's pretty high, we're looking at the kind of the dry, arid, warm summers bracketed by a very short spring and fall. And then winters typically have pretty ample precipitation. And by precipitation, I mean snow. The residents of Spokane definitely appreciate a little bit of a different lifestyle. They have that small town feel, but can still appreciate the big city amenities. And when you're in the Spokane area, there's lots of different water places, whether they're lakes or rivers around, and people enjoy doing all sorts of water sports on the weekends, not to mention, I mean, of course, going to the mountains. And then also, of course, there's arts and music and food. The other thing that's very plentiful in the Spokane area, in Spokane County, actually is farming, and it's very available right around the outside of the Spokane metro area. There's about 7,000 farms, and they have apples, they're dairy farms, lots of fresh produce, and they are sold at many of the farmers markets locally in Spokane. Spokane has been really trying to move forward into more of the service industry from more of an industrial side of employment. And they've been making great strides moving forward with the medical industry out there. But one thing that Spokane does absolutely face is very limited amount of high-paying jobs. So you're gonna see a lot of blue collar, very median income style jobs in the Spokane area. And next up, the third city and the fourth largest city in the state of Washington, my home, Vancouver, Washington. And in 2021, the population of Vancouver was right around 192,000 people and growing. Climate-wise, Vancouver probably doesn't see quite as many gray days as Seattle does, the 201 plus 93, but it does see its fair share. We do see quite a bit of rain as well, being in the Willamette Valley with Portland. And depending upon where you live, you might see some snow, usually 2 to 3 days in the Vancouver area a year. It doesn't stick very long. And summer-wise, we can see temperatures. We had 3 days 2 summers ago that were like 117 3 days in a row. But the last 2 summers, last summer and hopefully this summer, we won't see too much of that, but it's very mild, temperate, very beautiful, great if you like gardening and stuff like that, because I know I do. Lifestyle-wise, Vancouver is a suburb of Portland, so you're getting a lot of the culture from Portland, but not quite all of it. It's still very small town, very blue collar, very, I would call it even ultra suburban, almost like suburban rural, because the people are still extremely friendly. They want to chat. They slow down just to have a day. They're not so much hustle and bustle of the city. And that's what I love about it. The other cool thing about the lifestyle here is that you can be just about 2 hours from any type of outdoor activity that you want to do and outdoor area you want to be in. So it's like 2 hours to the desert, or maybe just less than 2 hours out to the mountains, or even 2 hours to the beach. It is very commutable to all 3 of those areas. Employment-wise, there's not too much very high-level employment here. A lot of people drive over the river into Portland to do a lot of the tech, but we have Peace Health, Legacy Health, and the Evergreen School District are probably the 3 largest employers in Vancouver and Clark County. And as for housing, and the median home price in the Vancouver area in April 2023 was about $535,000, which is actually up 5.9% year over year, which is crazy to think of with the way interest rates have been lately. The next city that we're gonna talk about on our list, number 4 for the day, is the Tri-Cities. And yes, Tri-Cities means there's 3, but it is a very prominent area in Southeast Washington. And the Tri-Cities are made up of Kennewick, Pasco, and West Richland. And in 2021, the population was just over 311,000 for the 3 cities combined. So the climate in the Tri-Cities area in the summer is typically pretty dry, very warm, and very sunny, since it is kind of a desert location. But then on the reverse side, when you get into the winter, it is cold and snowy and usually pretty partly cloudy. And a lot of that has to do with not only it being in the desert, but its proximity to the Columbia River Gorge and the weather that is produced by the gorge. Lifestyle-wise, the Tri-Cities is the 5th largest city metropolitan area in Washington. And it is, of all of the cities we're talking about, definitely the most rural. It is definitely the most blue collar. It is about 3.5 hours to Seattle and 3.5 hours to Vancouver. Both of them are about 220-mile drives, depending upon which one you're going to. And the thing is it's got plenty of farming. You're gonna find all sorts of fruit orchards, nut orchards, and it is known, and this is why it's one of my favorite places actually in the state of Washington. It is known as the heart of Washington's wine country. And there are over 200 wineries located within a 50-mile radius of the Tri-Cities. So you go out there, you either go to the Tri-Cities or maybe out to Walla Walla, and you can just find so many different great wineries to hang out and try. Housing-wise in the Tri-Cities area, this will be the most affordable of the 5 city areas that we have talked about today. And the median home price in April of 2023 was $499,000, and shockingly, it is up 13.6% year over year. So people have been hearing about the Tri-Cities and they've been making their move. And the last city that we're going to talk about, number 5 for the day, is Olympia, which is the capital of the state of Washington. And a lot of people forget that because Seattle is just so large. And the population of Olympia in 2021 was just over 55,000 people, which I find really shocking because I've been to Olympia a bunch and it feels so much bigger than that, but it really isn't. Climate-wise, Olympia is a little bit different than Seattle, and that's because it is located on the south end of the Puget Sound, and the microclimate there kind of leans it towards more Mediterranean feel. It's got this more like warm, moist feeling during the summer months, and then the winter months are moist, cold, rainy, foggy, and around 75% of the time in the winter, it is cloudy up there. And the one thing that kind of gets me is that annually, Olympia sees about 50 inches of precipitation, and most of that comes between November and January. Olympia, lifestyle-wise, yes, it is the capital of the state of Washington, but you don't feel that. It feels very suburban and kind of smaller town-wise, and I think that's because the population isn't as large as we think it should be, being a capital. But the other cool thing about the lifestyle in Olympia is that you can easily access things like Mount Rainier, the Cascade Mountains, the Olympic Mountains, and the Puget Sound, all within very brief time. So there's plentiful activities outdoors for everyone. One thing that I will say about Olympia is that it has a very competitive job market, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that 80% of the people that live in Olympia work for the government. And why wouldn't they? Because it does happen to be the state capital. But some of the other large private employers in the area would be Providence Health Services, we've got Walmart, Albertsons Safeway, and a couple of the local casinos as well. So there's opportunity in Olympia, and if Olympia doesn't have the employment for you, you can easily commute to either Tacoma or Seattle to find other opportunities. So there you have it. Those are the 5 largest cities in the state of Washington, and each one has something very special to offer for you. Whether it's you're looking for a slower pace of life and a lot of wine, which the Tri-Cities has to offer, or maybe you're looking for accessibility to nature and more affordable housing while being kind of close to the city, that's Olympia for you. And maybe you're looking for that awesome city hustle and bustle, and of course, Seattle's gonna be that place for you too. And I'm just glad that you came by and had a listen, because all 5 of these different areas have so much to offer. If you have more questions about living in the state of Washington, or maybe where you should live, please reach out. I get calls, texts, emails from people just like you every single day who are asking me all sorts of questions about moving to the state of Washington. And regardless if you're thinking about moving in the next 9 or 90 days, please give me a shout out. All my contact information is down below. I have a whole team of wonderful agents located throughout the entire state that are ready to help you make your move as smooth as possible to wherever in Washington you choose. So again, my name is Cassandra Marks, also known as Realtor Cass. I thank you so much for being here today. I very much appreciate you taking the time to listen to this video, and I hope you found it informational. And until next time, bye.